Welcome back to Topics in Psychology. I'm Dr. Sharon Eve, psychotherapist, author, and educator. And the title for this videotape is The Anger Stories, Part 1. There may be lots of parts to this. Anger is really significant in its effect on us. I don't know how you grew up, but in my family, I had one parent who was the withholding type. She would be angry and she would get silent. She would purse her lips, and it was really clear that she was taking her love away. So she was withholding until I apologized. Okay. My other parent, he could not regulate his emotions except when he wanted to, but for the most part, he was violent and he was rageful and he said horrible things. So that was my school of how to deal with anger when I was growing up. So it took me a long time to develop a relationship with anger, my anger, so that it would, the way I was with it, would match my values and just who I am as a person, rather than do things that would create wreckage that I had to deal with later. So let's start with a couple of my favorite stories. I have a friend who was living in another country, and he went to lunch, and the prices there are really inexpensive. Very, very inexpensive. So he probably had lunch for less than $1. This was back in the old days when things were a little less expensive. So he had his meal. It was a lovely meal. And then he got the bill, and the waiter, the server, had overcharged him by 5 cents. What did he do? Because, like me, he has the thing about fairness and justice and all that. He started arguing with the server that the bill was added up wrong and that it should be 5 cents less. And the server said, no, this is your fault. This is what you ordered, and I'm not going to change the bill. So what happened is my friend got more and more agitated and was yelling, ended up standing outside the restaurant, yelling at the server, just completely losing his temper. And people walked by and thought, who is this guy who's yelling? The thing is, he has tons of money. It was never about the nickel. And he reflects back on that and thinks about, I got so upset and lost my mind for a nickel. So that was a wake-up call for him. I have another story for you. It's a little bit similar, but kind of different. Different message, similar message. So this story takes place in an airport, and somebody's airplane was gonna be late. So they had time before their boarding time, and he went to the restaurant in the airport, had a meal, and had his breakfast. And at the end of the meal, he got the bill. And kind of like in the last story, the bill was wrong. And he got irate. He told the server that the server was wrong in the way they added up the bill and to correct it. And the server said no. So the guy asked to see the manager. The manager came over and they proceeded to argue about the bill. He argued and argued and argued. This diner argued and argued. And then, before you know it, he missed his plane. He was so busy arguing, he didn't notice that they had called boarding for his plane, and it took off. The reason I tell you these stories is there's so many things that go on with us around things that aren't okay with us. I think anger is our psyche's way of saying something's going on here. I don't like it, and I want it to be different. Okay, that's anger, the feeling. Okay, let me geek out a little bit here. I want to give us a foundation for understanding how we get to that place. Things happen. Then we have thoughts about the things that happen. And then whatever those thoughts are, if they're rational or irrational, we have those thoughts. And then we have feelings. Feelings just are. We feel sad. We feel angry. It's just something that arises in us given what we understand, what we think about, if we feel threatened, if something seems unfair to us. So our feelings happen. And then, this is the part I want you to remember. You can have your feelings, like I have my feelings, and we get to choose what behaviors come out of those feelings. It may not always feel like that. That's the process of more mindfulness and more self-awareness and more growth. And it can help us if we can identify being angry early on in the process. I feel unsettled about that. What's wrong here? What is it that is starting to bug me? I'm starting to feel agitated, but I really don't know what it's about. So let me take a moment to go inside, or maybe do some writing, but at least do some thinking about this feeling. What is that feeling connected to? It might have to do with something present time. It might have to do with something from the past, or your fear of the future based on the past and the present. Very complex. But the point is, I want you to notice when you're feeling angry, and ask yourself now, when you feel angry, what do you do? What did your parents do? Or other significant people in your life? What did you see them do? Did they take a breath and ground themselves and figure out, let's communicate about this, or let's understand what's going on and what we need? Or did they get agitated and blow up, or get drunk, or hit somebody, or throw things around the room? There are a lot of different behaviors that can come out of anger. What are yours? Let me ask you. And if you want to write some of these questions down, pause the video and write them down, I heartily invite you to. Because I can give you information, but taking this information and asking what it means for you is where there's probably more growth for you. So, what are the things that make you angry? What triggers you to lose your sense of calmness? So those things that bug you, what do you do? And how does that work for you? The way you deal with your anger, it has an outcome. Is that the outcome that you want? If we recognize that we're angry early on in the process, we can look at that and we're not so agitated. So we're more likely to make better decisions about it. Another favorite story of mine, Keanu Reeves. He talks about how when somebody tells him 2 + 2 is 5, at this point in his life, it's like, okay. Maybe earlier on in his life, or maybe for a lot of us, if somebody says 2 + 2 is 5, we would feel compelled to argue with them because it feels wrong to us. But to get to that place where you feel what's going on, you're aware of that something has happened that you don't like, and you can go inside and say, what do I want to do with this? Is this something like in the Keanu Reeves case where it really doesn't matter and I'm just going to go do the next thing in my day? Or is it something that you want to speak up about? If you're speaking up, are you talking to somebody who's listening? You'll find listening stuff in a lot of my other videos. So what we're talking about here is you developing a relationship with your feeling of anger. Things happen. We have thoughts about it. We have feelings. and then we have behavior. That's how it unfolds. So when you start to feel angry and then you check in with yourself, those questions I just mentioned, what is it at this particular moment? And what is it that I need? Anger is your psyche's way of telling you that something's going on here, and you want it to be different. So what do you need? So if you have answers to those questions, I'd love to hear it. In the comments, I read all the comments, and there will be more videos about anger. I promise you, I have lots of thoughts about it. Okay, thanks for coming today. We'll see you soon.